To talk about analogies of the Trinity, we have to start just with a couple minutes on thinking about what the Trinity is and how we should think of it. And I think the simplest way to put this is we really ought to think of the doctrine of the Trinity as being upheld by two pillars. One of those pillars that upholds the doctrine might be called the distinction pillar, where Father, Son, and Spirit are distinct from each other. So it's not the case that Father, Son, and Spirit are three names for the same person. Like I'm Bruce, I'm Mr. Ware, and I'm Jody's husband. So those are three names for the same person, but actually Father is a distinct person from Son, and Son a distinct person from Holy Spirit. So distinction is one of the pillars. The other pillar is the unity or equality pillar, in which the Father, Son, and Spirit share together the one identical divine nature. So they're equally God because each possesses fully the one divine nature. So bear in mind, this means they don't possess, Father, Son, and Spirit don't possess merely 1/3 of the divine nature, but rather the whole divine nature is possessed by the Father, the whole divine nature by the Son, the whole divine nature by the Spirit. One divine nature, that is the collection, as it were, of all of the essential attributes of God, possessed fully by the Father and the Son and the Spirit. And yet, Father, Son, and Spirit are distinct personal expressions of that one God. So God is one and three in the doctrine of the Trinity. One of the ways the church has expressed this visually is a chart that really does help because of the is and is not. You'll notice as you look at it, where the Father is not the Son is not the Spirit, and yet the Father is God, the Son is God, the Holy Spirit is God. So distinction, Father, Son, and Spirit distinct from each other, but unity and equality. The Father, Son, and Spirit comprise the one God. And by the way, you can hear that in John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word was with God, distinction. So the Father and Son are distinct from each other, but the Word was God, equality. So both those pillars have to be in place for the doctrine of the Trinity. Okay, now, having said that, there are some famous, oft-repeated illustrations for the Trinity that really don't work ultimately, even if they're helpful to begin with. One is a triangle, for example, which can only be a triangle because it has three sides. And so you think, well, three is necessary, one is necessary. Isn't that a great analogy of the Trinity? Well, the problem is this, that really triangle, when you think of it, is not an apt analogy because side A of the triangle is not triangularity, right? Whereas the Father is God. Side B is not triangle, but the Son is God. So really what the triangle represents is a tripartite view of God. That God is comprised of three parts. Only when put together appropriately do you have the one God. But that's not what the doctrine of the Trinity proposes. So that's where it fails. It really is a tripartite view of God, not Trinitarian. Another is, that's often used, is three men, say Peter, James, and John. I might think in the age I grew up in, Peter, Paul, and Mary. You could have it either way. But you think of these three persons, and you have three persons, and they share in common a human nature. Isn't that the same thing? And the answer is no, it's not the same thing, because actually the human nature of Peter is a distinct and different human nature. Even though it is the same kind of nature, it's a distinct nature from James and from John. So if something happens to Peter, James and John are just fine. Now they might be sad, but nonetheless, they live on and they're just fine. So that is actually an example of tritheism. Peter, James, and John, each with their own distinct nature. They're not only distinct persons, they're distinct natures also. So it doesn't really represent the Trinity, where the nature of the Father is the identically same nature as the nature of the Son and of the Spirit. And here's a third one. Just in the time we have, we'll probably just do these three. A third illustration that is oftentimes used is of H2O. what we think of as water that can be in the form, H2O can be in the form of a solid, ice, liquid, running water, and vapor, steam. So you have three different expressions of one molecular compound, H2O. But notice in that you cannot have the same H2O molecules that are simultaneously solid, liquid, and vapor. Rather, what you have is those H2O molecules that at one time are solid, then at another time, the ice melts, it's liquid, and at another time, it's vapor. So really what that H2O illustrates better is the heresy in the early church that's called modalism. That the one God presents himself as the Father, and then he comes to earth as the Son, and then he comes to earth at Pentecost as the Spirit. And so the modalist view would understand, yes, there is Father, Son, and Spirit, but they're actually expressions of the same one person that just represents himself in different ways. An illustration that I have used over the years that I do find helpful in a broad way of thinking about the Trinity. It's not perfect, and I'll explain the imperfection of it in just a moment. But it is to imagine in your mind three exactly overlapping circles. So imagine a whiteboard, and I take a blue marker and draw on the board a blue circle. So you have on the board one circle that is encompassed by one line, a blue line. Now I take a green marker and overlap the blue line exactly, which is hard to do in actuality. It's easier to do just as a mental project, right? You take a green marker and overlap the blue one exactly, so you have on the board one circle. The blue circle is the green circle. The green circle is the blue circle, and yet the green line is not the blue line, right? So you take one more, a red marker, and overlap exactly the blue and the green. So you have on the board one circle where the green circle and the blue circle and the red circle are the identically same circle, and yet the red line is a distinct expression of that circle. The blue line a distinct expression, and the green line a distinct expression of that one identically same circle. So something like that is true of the Trinity, where the nature of God is possessed fully by the Father, fully by the Son, fully by the Spirit. And yet the Father is a distinct expression. Now here's where the illustration fails, is that geometrical figure of a circle is not personal. But with Father, Son, and Spirit, these are persons. These are persons who act and speak and are functioning fully as persons. And so these are distinct personal expressions. The Father is a distinct personal expression, the Son a distinct personal expression, the Spirit a distinct personal expression of that one undivided divine nature commonly possessed by the one God. And all three persons of the Trinity possess in common that one divine nature.